All thanks and praise are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and may His peace and blessings be upon His last and final messenger. So welcome back to another episode of The Poets, a series where we're exploring the meanings and lessons of Surah al-Shu'arā. So in our last session together, alhamdulillah, we were able to cover the meanings and lessons of verses 111 to 122. And inshallah tonight the plan is to explore the lessons and meanings of verses 123 to 130. So we're going to start off like we do every week by first and foremost reciting the verses themselves. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كذبت عاد المرسلين إذ قال لهم أخوهم هود ألا تتقون إني لكم رسول أمين فاتقوا الله وأطيعون وما أسألكم عليه من أجر إن أجري إلا على رب العالمين أتبنون بكل ريع آية تعبثون وتتخذون مصانع لعلكم تخلدون وإذا بطشتم جبارين فاتقوا الله وأطيعون واتقوا الذي أمدكم بما تعلمون أمدكم بأنعام وبنين وجنات وعيون إني أخاف عليكم عذاب يوم عظيم قالوا سواء علينا أوعظت أم لم تكن من الواعظين إن هذا إلا خلق الأولين وما نحن بمعذبين فكذبوه فأهلكناهم إن في ذلك لآية وما كان أكثرهم مؤمنين وإن ربك لهو العزيز الرحيم. So just as a quick reminder, in the last passage of the surah, we were introduced very briefly to the story of Nuh alayhi salam, the prophet Noah, which is a story of faith, it's a story of determination, patience, and perseverance. It highlights the theme that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always on the side of the truth. That throughout history, there has always been a battle between falsehood and truth, good and evil, faith and disbelief. And this battle is something that's going to continue till near the end of times. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always be on the side of the truth. He will always be on the side of goodness and belief. And He has promised the believers help, victory, mercy, forgiveness, and reward. So from here, the surah now transitions into an episode from the life of Hud alayhi salam, the prophet Hud. And it focuses on the message of the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which was the primary message of every single prophet and messenger that has been sent to mankind throughout history. So this story, it's also focusing on this concept of the oneness, the uniqueness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it talks about how His people responded. That initially they responded with opposition, they responded with rejection, and they responded with disbelief. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here in the surah, He mentions the story very briefly. It's very similar to a summary. And from this we can see that the story of Hud alayhi salam, it is very similar to the story of the prophet Nuh alayhi salam. It highlights the same themes, the same concepts. So it's literally history repeating itself once again. It's the struggle between faith and disbelief. So the prophet Hud alayhi salam and his people, they lived in an area known as al-Ahqaf. This was the name of the geographical location where they lived. It's an area of extensive sand dunes, not far from the city of Hadramaut, which is in modern day Yemen. So this was their geographical location historically. And they lived sometimes after the Prophet Noah alayhi salam. And they were one of the communities that deviated from the right way sometime after the flood that punished Nuh alayhi salam's people. So Hud alayhi salam, his story over here in the poets, it's told very briefly. But elsewhere in the Quran we find more details. For example, in Surah al-Ahqaf, which is translated as the Heights, Allah mentions the story with more details. Similarly, in Surah Hud. So there's an entire chapter of the Quran that is entitled Hud. And in this chapter, Allah discusses the story with more details. It's also mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun, the believers, But in that surah, Allah doesn't mention the name Hud specifically. Now the story here is summed up between Hud alayhi salam's address to his community that encouraged them to believe in the oneness of Allah, and the eventual end they faced as Allah's punishment came upon them. So the people of Hud alayhi salam, they were extremely strong and tall. They were given a lot of physical power, a lot of physical strength. They were given unusual strength and height. And they were also living a life of wealth, prosperity, and comfort. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given them a lot of material blessings. They had everything they needed for a very comfortable, a very prosperous life. So they had a lot of food, a lot of crops, a lot of wealth, rivers, and fruits. But despite all of these blessings, they chose to associate partners with Allah. They chose to become ungrateful. They chose to express ingratitude. And because of that, eventually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished them. So the story of Hud here, it starts the same way as the story of Nuh alayhi salam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts by saying, كَذَّبَتْ عَادٌ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. The Ad denied the messengers. إِذْ قَالَ لَهُمْ أَخُوهُمْ هُودٌ أَلَا تَتَّقُونَ. When their brother Hud said to them, will you not be God conscious? So this is the exact same way the story of Noah alayhi salam started in the surah as well. Hud alayhi salam, he was sent to the people of Ad, and he called them towards the truth, towards pure monotheism, towards belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone without any partners, and to worship Him alone without any partners. But the initial response of his people was one of opposition and rejection. They called him a liar and they rejected his message. So again here, just like at the beginning of the story of Nuh alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't just say that they denied him, but they denied all of the messengers. كَذَّبَتْ عَادٌ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. That the people of Ad, this community, this nation, they rejected, they denied every single messenger that has been sent throughout history. And this highlights that the message of every single prophet and messenger has always been the same. And this is something that's very important for us as Muslims to understand. That every single prophet and messenger throughout history, they came with the exact same message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it focused on three things. The first being the oneness and existence of God. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists, that He is alone without any partner, that He's the Almighty, the All-Powerful, and that He alone deserves to be worshipped. The second is prophethood. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose certain human beings to convey His divine message to humanity. And the third is life after death. The concept of the hereafter, of accountability and judgment. So every single prophet from Adam alayhi salam, all the way to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, all of them, their core message focused and revolved around these three particular concepts. So they denied the messengers, إِذْ قَالَ لَهُمْ هُودٌ أَلَا تَتَّقُونَ. When their brother Hud alayhi salam said to them, will you not have taqwa? Will you not be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So here, Allah refers to Hud as their brother, because he was one of them. He was from that society, he was from that community. He was a native member of the community that he was trying to save by bringing them towards faith. And after observing their corrupt beliefs and immoral ways, he asked them, أَلَا تَتَّقُونَ. Will you not be conscious of your Lord and Creator? That how can you worship and associate partners with Allah? How can you become disobedient and immoral and corrupt when God is the one who has blessed you with all of these amazing things? That aren't you conscious or aware of your Lord and Creator? Aren't you afraid of the consequences of your beliefs, attitude, and behavior? Aren't you afraid of the consequences of worshipping idols and associating partners with Allah? So this is a very powerful question that Hud alayhi salam is posing to his people. أَلَا تَتَّقُونَ. That don't you think about and don't you fear your Lord and Creator. And this reminder to have taqwa, to be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is a very common theme throughout the entire surah. We're going to see that it has been repeated over and over and over again. So I'm going to leave you with that thought, this repetition, to have God consciousness, and we will come back and pick up from here. So stay guided with Guide Us TV.
Clear. Okay, can you turn this off?
It's off.
Oh, is it? Great, great. I just want to be sure we didn't get more of that echo.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How long?
30 seconds.
30 seconds. clock right?
It's about 2 minutes ahead.
Seconds. It's about 2 minutes ahead.
2 minutes? Okay. Be sure that we don't run over time.
Yes, 2 minutes ahead. 10, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Alright, welcome back. So right before we went off the air, we were talking about Hud alayhi salam reminding his people to be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to have taqwa. And after reminding them of this, he asks them the same thing that Nuh alayhi salam asked his people. Or he tells them the same thing that Nuh alayhi salam told his people. And that is, Inni lakum rasulun ameen. That truly I am a trustworthy messenger for you. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُونَ. So be conscious of Allah and follow me. وَمَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ مِنْ أَجْرٍ. And I'm not asking you for any type of reward for it. إِنْ أَجْرِيَ إِلَّا عَلَى رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. That my reward lies only with the Lord of the worlds. So Hud alayhi salam, he's having this conversation with his people, and he's describing himself as Rasulun Ameen, as a trustworthy messenger. And he was known as a person of honesty and integrity. There was no reason for him to be lying to his people regarding prophethood. And these are the exact same words that were spoken by Nuh alayhi salam. And these are the exact same words that have been spoken by prophets and messengers throughout history. That they're reminding their community that they are people of honesty. They are people who are trustworthy. That what they say, they can have full reliance and trust in them. So, Inni lakum rasulun ameen. I am a trustworthy messenger, and I have been entrusted by Allah to convey this divine message. And He is going to fulfill this trust by conveying the message without adding anything to it or taking anything away from it. And after establishing that He's a trustworthy messenger, He reminds them once again to fear Allah. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُونَ. That since I am a trustworthy messenger, be conscious of your Lord and Creator, and obey me, listen to what I have to say. So again, He's reminding them to have taqwa and to fear His punishment. And if they fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they should follow Him and obey Him in terms of beliefs and practice. And then Hud reassures his community that he's not looking for any type of material gain. That his message is sincere. He actually has genuine concern for the salvation of his community. That he has genuine concern for the protection and salvation of his people. So he's reassuring his people that he's not looking for any type of material or political gain. He's not in search of wealth and power, authority, status, rule, leadership, or kingdom. He reminds them that his reward is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone for conveying the message fully and truthfully. And he's showing them that he has absolute sincerity and that he's inviting them towards faith and belief because he truly cares about them. And that is one of the absolute most important qualities to possess as someone who's inviting to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As someone who's calling people towards the truth. That we're actually supposed to care about every other human being. And that care and concern is supposed to be, how can I become a means of helping this person achieve salvation? How can I become a means of getting this person into paradise? And that's supposed to be a concern that all of us have. And that was the concern of all the prophets and messengers. And again, they weren't doing it for any material gain. And as we talked about in our previous session, sincerity is the key component to every single thing we do as believers. We have to ensure that we're not trying to profit or gain any sort of personal advantage from religion. And this has been the way and methodology of all past prophets and messengers whose footsteps we're trying to follow. So ikhlas, sincerity, is the most important component in every single thing that we do. And this is something that the Prophet ﷺ told us in that very well-known hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he says, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. That actions are only by their intentions. وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَى. And every person will only get whatever they intend. And this hadith is considered to be one of the cornerstones of our religious practice. A lot of scholars said this is the axis around which all of Islam revolves. So this is a very important concept for us to bring into our lives and bring into our actions, just as we see from all of the prophets and messengers, just as we see from the life of Hud alayhi salam. And then Hud alayhi salam discussed 3 specific issues or faults he found with their behavior. So after inviting them towards the truth, and after telling them about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's highlighting 3 major faults that he sees in his community, that he sees in his people. And he's telling them that these faults, they are things that are destructive. These are things that are going to lead to your own destruction, your own punishment. So you need to wise up, you need to wake up, you need to leave these ways and come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all of the things that he criticizes, they revolve around pride, arrogance, and vanity. Some of the greatest diseases of the heart. Things that corrupt a person's belief, that corrupt a person's behavior. So he criticizes the fact that they spend wealth and resources to build these grand structures just to show off. That the people of Ad, they were very, very heavily into materialism. And one of the ways they expressed that is that they would build these really huge, lofty structures for no other purpose than just to show off. That there was no purpose, there was no reason behind them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us what He said to them. أَتَبْنُونَ بِكُلِّ رِيعٍ آيَةً تَعْبَثُونَ. That do you frivolously build on every high place a sign? Do you uselessly build on every high place a sign? So the word ri'un is translated as a high place. And it can also refer to a path or a road, essentially a public place that is visible. So any public space that's visible to people is called ri'un in the Arabic language. And different things are said regarding what exactly Ad used to build. So for example, some narrations mention that they were these grand structures, and others mention that they were actually palaces. And regardless of what exactly they used to build, we're being told that they would build these enormous grand structures in order to show a sign of their power, of their wealth and great ability. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, they built it uselessly. Ta'abathun. Right? The word abath in the Arabic language, it means to do something without any purpose. It's aimless. It has no goal. It has no objective behind it. So the people of Ad, they're building these huge structures for absolutely no reason. It's being done in abath. So this was a waste of their time, their wealth and resources for the sake of something that wouldn't benefit them in this world or the next. And the commentators, they mention that one of the lessons we learn from this is that we should direct our resources and abilities to what is of benefit. Not just use them to show off our wealth and abilities. So oftentimes when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us with wealth and power and authority and intellect, and He blesses us with these amazing abilities, we're not given these blessings just to use them as we like. We're not being given these blessings just to waste them and show them off. Rather, we're supposed to use these resources in the best way possible. So this is one of the criticisms that Hud alayhi salam is telling to his people. That God has blessed you with such amazing things and you're using them in vain. You're just wasting all of these blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. And then Hud alayhi salam then asked them why they build these large palaces and castles. That وَتَتَّخِذُونَ مَصَانِعَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَخْلُدُونَ. And you make castles hoping to be immortal. Now this is a very unique statement from Hud alayhi salam. That why do you build these large castles, palaces and fortresses? It's as if you're going to live forever in this world. That you're building these huge, amazing palaces, places that are full of comfort and luxury, and it's as if you think you're going to live for all of eternity in the life of this world. It's as if you want to live forever in this world. But the reality is that this life is going to come to an end. That this life is not going to last forever. And you will leave this world just as those who came before you have left this world again. So this verse suggests that the people of Ad, they didn't contemplate the reality of death. But they built structures and buildings as though they would live forever. And it's narrated that when Abu Darda radiallahu anh saw what the Muslims had developed in certain parts of Damascus in terms of buildings and gardens, he had the people gather in the masjid. Now Abu Darda radiallahu anh, he's one of the unique companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was known to have somewhat of a very strict personality, especially in terms of being a person of zuhud, being a person of asceticism. He was someone who was completely detached from the life of this world. And it's said because of that, he was actually told to go live on the outskirts of Medina because he was a little bit too strict when it came to this. So it's mentioned when he came to Damascus, he was in shock at how much wealth the Muslims had gathered. And how they were wasting their wealth in building these amazing, nice structures and getting into architecture and all of these things. So it says he gathers the Muslims in the masjid. And he started by praising and glorifying Allah. And then he said, Are you not ashamed? Right? Don't you have any shame? You gather what you don't eat. You build what you don't use, and hope for what you can't have. There were generations before you who gathered and stored, built and built well, and had high hopes, but their hopes turned into deceit. They're storing into waste, and their homes into graves. Ad owned horses and camels between Aden and Oman, so who will purchase the inheritance from me for 2 dirhams? So basically, Hud alayhi salam, or Abu Darda, he's getting at this point that if spending all of our time and energy and focus is being spent to invest in the life of this world, all of that is useless. That our real energy and resources and time and effort should be spent in building our homes in Jannah. Right? It should be spent in efforts and activities that's going to guarantee us salvation in the hereafter. Whereas spending time and effort and energy in amassing wealth and luxury and comfort and pleasure in this world is something that's useless. It's something that's going to come to an end. It's something that's not going to last forever. So this is a good place for us to stop and kind of reflect on this message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Hud alayhi salam is reminding us that the life of this world is temporary. I still got 4 minutes, I believe. Right? Alright, so I can keep going. We'll go on to the next verse as well. So in the next verse, Hud alayhi salam criticized their cruelty, oppression, and injustice. So he says, وَإِذَا بَطَشْتُمْ بَطَشْتُمْ جَبَّارِينَ. And when you strike as tyrants. So another way that this is translated is, and when you exercise your power, you do so like cruel tyrants. Meaning when you deal with others, you deal with them with arrogance, pride, cruelty, injustice, tyranny, and oppression. That these people were mighty, hard, tyrannical, and they would deal with others using utmost cruelty, like many others who rely on material power. So through building lofty structures, Ad was looking for glory. By building strong palaces, they were searching for immortality. And by being oppressive, they were seeking dominance. So these are 3 things that Hud alayhi salam highlighted as things they were doing as criticisms. Right? These are 3 critiques that Hud alayhi salam had for his community. That they're doing things just for glory, for vanity. That they're trying to be immortal. And the third is that they want to seek dominance. And they say that all 3 of these are symptoms of the exact same disease, which is love of this world. Hubbud dunya. That wanting glory and power and fame and authority and dominance, all of this is rooted in having love for the life of this world. And this is perhaps one of the most consuming diseases of the heart, which is known as hubbud dunya. And there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he told us that hubbud dunya ra'su kulli khati'atin. That love for this world is the source, is the origin of every sin. So basically the Prophet ﷺ is saying that think about all the mistakes you have made. Think about all the sins and acts of disobedience you may have done in your life. If you're to actually analyze them, you'll find that the root cause is love for the life of this world. Because that's the only reason why we as human beings would do something wrong. Because we'd be giving preference to this world over the world of the hereafter. So this is a very profound concept that is very important for us to understand, that hubbud dunya ra'su kulli khati'atin. That love for this world is considered to be the root cause of all sins. And one of the most powerful and constant reminders throughout the Quran is that the life of this world is temporary. So one of the titles that's given to the Quran is al-dhikr. It's been called the reminder. So it reminds us about a lot of realities of life. And one of the most profound realities of this life is that it's going to come to an end. It's not going to last forever. It is finite. It has an expiration date. Whereas the life of the hereafter, the life to come, is a life of all of eternity. And that is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us about throughout the Quran, right? And almost on every single page in the Quran, we are being given this reminder that we're not going to be here forever. So for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, يَا قَوْمِ إِنَّمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا مَتَاعٌ وَإِنَّ الْآخِرَةَ هِيَ دَارُ الْقَرَارِ. That, O my people, this worldly life is only temporary enjoyment. And indeed, the hereafter, that is the home of permanent settlement. So this is an excellent place for us to stop and to serve as a reminder that the life of this world is coming to an end and the life of the world is going to last forever. So let's prepare for that life. So unfortunately, we're now out of time. We will continue from here next week We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this and place on a scale of good deeds on Day of Judgment. Jazakumullah khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And remember to say guided with Guide Us TV.
Clear. Whenever you're ready, sir.
All right.
Perfect.
Alhamdulillah.
You're becoming a pro at this, man.
Inshallah. All right, so we'll pray Isha. All right, we'll pray Isha, and then we'll continue a little bit after Isha, inshallah, for about 10 minutes or so. Inshallah.
This shuts off when you close it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do you need this plugged together or do you take it apart?
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
لا إله إلا الله لا حول ولا قوة.
استووا اعتدلوا تراصوا. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين
آمين
يا أيها الذين آمنوا أنفقوا مما رزقناكم من قبل أن يأتي يوم لا بيع فيه ولا خلة ولا شفاعة والكافرون هم الظالمون الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله سميع عليم الله ولي الذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور والذين كفروا أولياؤهم الطاغوت يخرجونهم من النور إلى الظلمات أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
آمين.
وإذ قال الله يا عيسى ابن مريم أأنت قلت للناس اتخذوني وأمي إلهين من دون الله قال سبحانك ما يكون لي أن أقول ما ليس لي بحق إن كنت قلته فقد علمته تعلم ما في نفسي ولا أعلم ما في نفسك إنك أنت علام الغيوب ما قلت لهم إلا ما أمرتني به أن اعبدوا الله ربي وربكم وكنت عليهم شهيدا ما دمت فيهم فلما توفيتني كنت أنت الرقيب عليهم وأنت على كل شيء شهيد إن تعذبهم فإنهم عبادك وإن تغفر لهم فإنك أنت العزيز الحكيم قال الله هذا يوم ينفع الصادقين صدقهم لهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه ذلك الفوز العظيم لله ملك السماوات والأرض وما فيهن وهو على كل شيء قدير. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, just a reminder, this Friday is our family fun night. We're doing barbecue, inshallah. You guys have gotten the emails. We got the flyers posted. I see Sheikh Yusuf over there. We'll try to keep one with no spices, inshallah. Just reminded me. But do show up, inshallah. We're starting at 6 o'clock. We've got a game truck for the children. We've got Brother Houghton, who's got an activity, Thrush Athletics. MashaAllah, he's full of surprises. 6 o'clock to 9:30, inshallah. And the food will be sold from $6 to $10, inshallah. Hoping to see everybody there. Assalamu alaikum.
For those of you who come for the Tafsīr class, since the time changed, we're going to be starting at 7 o'clock, inshallah. Right, the class will start at 7, then we'll break for Isha, and then after Isha we'll go for maybe 10 to 15 more minutes, inshallah. So I guess we'll start after everyone finishes their sunnahs, inshallah.